What's up, my wizards? It's Dev, here with Waverly, who only has to wear this collar for like one more day. She got spayed last week. She has to wear this stupid collar for a week, and she can't stand it. I'm going to let you go do your thing, baby. Maybe she'll be back. But anyway, in case you didn't know, we're rounding the corner. It's almost time for War of the Spark spoilers. They start in like less than a month, so it's time to start talking about what we expect from this set as a community. So today, it's one of my favorite kind of videos. I do it every season. I'm going to show you 10 original card concepts that I'd like to see implemented in Watts. Now, before we get started here, just to reiterate, I want to make sure there's no confusion or anything. This is not a reprints that I want in War of the Spark video. That comes a little bit later. It's not an official spoiler video in any way either. That comes much later, 3 or 4 weeks from now. This video here is basically a bunch of original cards of my own design that I'd like to see implemented in some form or fashion in the next set. From a few different perspectives, both in terms of what mechanics they implement and some cards that I think will be important for them to have in standard, especially in a format that's ostensibly full of planeswalkers. But last thing here, I also like to use this video as a jumping off point for a greater conversation. If you play Magic long enough, yeah, you'll play a bunch of games, you'll build a bunch of decks, but you'll also start making your own cards. And there's really no forum on the internet to discuss that aspect of playing Magic. So I like to use this video as an excuse to let the comments section be just that, a place where you can air all the things that you expect from this next set or some cards that you'd like to see in the next set or two. So with that in mind, use this video as that. Go into the comments section and let me know sort of some cards that you want to see appear in this next set. But for the next 15-20 minutes or so, let's talk about some stuff that I've come up with here, and you guys will let me know in the comments section how you feel about that, because you can also use this as an opportunity to tell me how underpowered, or in most cases overpowered, my cards are and what a stupid jerk I am. So let's get to it. Now, if this list is in any kind of order whatsoever, I would say it's in order from like least to most likely to actually happen thing. So I guess I'm going to start with something I don't expect them to actually do, but if they did, I really enjoyed if they did something like this. So let's take a look at Deep Reconnaissance and Recharge to start here. Now, obviously, the basic idea here is to jam together 2 guild mechanics. Now, I don't think that they're likely to do this because War of the Spark is its own set. It's not technically part of a block at all, so I find it pretty unlikely that they'll call back to these other mechanics. But if they were to, that'd be awesome. I'd like to see all of these mechanics expanded on a little bit more, especially the ones that appear on these cards. I'd love to see more Jumpstart stuff and more Surveil stuff, but even more Addendum stuff too, and a card template like this would be a good way to pull that off. And that's really what this entry is more than anything else. It's a templating idea. You don't have to make these exact cards. And that goes for every entry in today's video. I don't really expect them to make these cards word for word, but some version of these ideas would be really cool. And they don't all have to be instants and sorceries, obviously. You could also go with the creatures, something like Condemned Commander here, which has maybe my favorite flavor text of the entire day. But Mentor and Afterlife would be good abilities to stack together that obviously don't make for a super overpowered card or anything. I don't think this is broken, obviously. So I like the idea of just jamming together some of these guild mechanics and seeing what you get, especially considering that that's a little bit on flavor, given that it looks like some of the guilds are going to be working together, and some are going to be working for Bolas. So you take the ones that are all working together with each other, you jam their abilities together, and it could really lead to some interesting cards. Well, that's one entry out, but what else are we looking for in this set? Or at least what else am I looking for in this set? I won't pretend to speak for you, but as far as what else I want, when this video won the Patreon poll, which it did by a landslide with like 9 other really good options on the docket, this video won by a lot of votes. But when this video did win, I had a couple of patrons say like, I can't wait to see what sort of standard specific answers you want to see in the next set. And that was an interesting thing to say. And I had a couple of ideas brewing up in my head, but what I'd probably most like to see is Serenity Cub. This is a pretty simple concept, but I like Hate Bears, and that's literally 100% what you've got here. A 2-mana 2/2 that's an actual bear, and triggered abilities don't trigger. Also, players can't cast spells with converted mana cost 4 or greater, so it's got a little Gaddock Teeg in its blood, I want to see something like this, because there's a lot that this answers in standard, while itself having a bunch of answers, to it. You can just shock this, deadweight it, cast down, Lava Coil, Lightning Strike, pretty pretty much any played removal spell in Standard right now will take out Cub. So it's not like this is going to be a Scourge or broken in Standard or just unanswerable or anything. But while it is on the battlefield, it really helps in dealing with stuff like especially Hydroid Krasis. They can't cast a good Krasis in the first place, and even if they could, they won't get the cast trigger because triggered abilities don't trigger. So, again, this probably keeps people from playing 80% of the good, quote-unquote, good cards in Standard. So it is broken in that way, but it is extremely, extremely removable. It also doesn't have any creature types that would really help it in any way. It's not a human or an elf, etc. So that helps power down the card, that extra half a step. And for what it's worth, it's well below curve and doesn't have any keyword abilities or anything, so it's not like it's an especially good creature to spend your turn 2 playing. But all that said, this would probably see sideboard, if not mainboard, play if it were a real card. The thing is, though, I'm willing to bet people are going to say that bear is the most broken card in the video. We'll see, though. There's always one that I misjudge. It's like, that's not that powerful, and it turns out that it just could never be printed, which may be the case with one of or both of the next cards I'm going to show you here. Because another concept that I'd like to see revisited is charms. We used to get charms all the time, Sometimes they're specific to a guild, or maybe a shard or a wedge, and sometimes they're specific to a personality within the story, and that's kind of what I'm looking for here. Let's take a look at both Bolas' charm and Jace's charm. And yeah, I know the templating on the name is different. Like, Bolas isn't possessive, Jace is. I know it's weird looking, but I'm just giving you options here. Now, Bolas' charm is 3 mana, it's Grixis colors. For an instant, you choose one. Gain control of target creature with converted mana cost 3 or less. Or you can draw 2 cards. Or you can destroy target planeswalker. Now, Jace's charm is also 3 mana, 1 and 2 blue for an instant. Choose one, counter target spell. Or put target creature on top of its owner's library. Or create a 2/2 blue illusion creature token. You know what illusions do. If it gets targeted by anything, you sacrifice it. Now, both of these cards are pretty overpowered, especially Jace's charm, because it's a 3 mana counterspell that also does lots and lots of other stuff. I know Wizards doesn't want to overpower 3 mana counterspells so much, so usually you'll just see, Surveil, like Sinister Sabotage, or, Scry, or something like that. But I think as far as 3 mana counterspells go, having one that does 2 other things is pretty powerful. I'll give you that much, but I don't necessarily think this card is extremely overpowered, especially considering the second ability just appeared for 2 mana on Warrant Warden, and obviously 3 mana is not necessarily where you want to be for a 2/2 illusion, but if you put all of those abilities together, this could actually be an extremely potent card, even given how sort of difficult it is to cast and how many blue sources you have to devote to it. I still think it would obviously see play, and the same thing's true of Bolas' charm. The whole idea here is that this card is relatively difficult to cast, so the 3 abilities should be good. The first 2 of them are actually 2-for-1s, but I don't think Bolas would have it any other way. And the third one is Destroy Target Planeswalker, which I think is on flavor for Bolas. That's kind of what I wanted to hit here, is what's on flavor for these 2 planeswalkers, and pretty much any planeswalker that could receive a charm. And I think I've done that, but I'll admit, these 2 might be just barely overpowered. You let me know how you feel. Either way, the point here is that I really would like to see charms implemented again. You obviously don't have to give like all 36 planeswalkers a charm. You can just give like the Gatewatch and Bolas, and maybe even Ugin a charm, and I'd be pretty happy with that. I just like to see these modal spells return. We have a couple of modal spells over the last few sets, but I would really like to see these become more the norm and have more of a set dedicated to them. Modal spells are always welcome. They're some of my favorite kind of spells in Magic, and they're always pretty powerful. But on to the next. Obviously, a lot of the talk here is going to be about planeswalkers, because there's going to be 36 planeswalkers in this set. I'm still not sure how I feel about it, whether I feel good or bad. A lot of people feel really bad. A lot of people feel really good. I don't know. We'll wait. We'll see what happens once spoiler season actually gets here. But one thing I do know for sure is that if there's going to be so many planeswalkers in the set, then at the very least for limited purposes, there has to be an answer to planeswalkers baked into this set somewhere. We've already got Bedevil, Vraska's Contempt, I guess Ixalan's Binding, and a couple of other ways in disparate sets and Standard to take out planeswalkers. But we're going to need a way in the actual War of the Sparks set that kills planeswalkers. So that said, here's my idea. Here's Mortalize. And yes, we're all running out of names for cards that say kill that thing. But anyway, immortalizes 2 mana, Orzhov colors, a black and a white, for an instant. Destroy target creature or planeswalker with converted mana cost 4 or greater. Now, just to clear up the wording here, both targets that are eligible for this card have to have CMC 4 or greater. So whether you're killing a creature or a planeswalker, it's got to be as big or bigger than 4 CMC. So just keep that in mind. But I think that this is fair removal. It is only 2 mana, but you're pretty much never going to be casting this on turn 2. That said, you could easily kill one of their planeswalkers and double spell on like turn 5 or 6. But that said, by the time you get to turn 5 or 6, I think you deserve a double spell. That's fine. So I don't think that this is too broken, even at just 2 mana, although I could see making this 3 mana. That said, it's kind of meant to be a callback to Reprisal, white cards like that. But also, with the black mana, you get to kill planeswalkers, obviously. So you could, again, add more mana to this if you wanted to balance it a little bit more, but I actually don't necessarily think it's too broken at just 2 mana. I've said before in these videos that I'd like to see 2 mana planeswalker removal. I actually don't think that's too much to ask. I've had people say in the comment sections before that 2 mana planeswalker removal just will never happen, but I have yet to see a good argument for why not. But hey, maybe you'll be the first person to provide one. Anyway, let's move on here. We're actually just about done. We're about to wrap this thing up. Now, as far as the, next 2 most likely thing to happen in this set, I think we're actually getting into the territory of like, this is almost certainly definitely going to happen. We're going to get planeswalker removal. I think that we're definitely going to get that. So that last entry probably won't print exactly that card, but we'll get planeswalker removal. Something else that I think we'll almost certainly get in this set is planeswalker payoffs. Just like in Dominaria, where there was a legend in every pack, you had Historic, which was basically a legend payoff, but also artifacts and, anything legendary for that matter, not just creatures. But I think we'll see a sort of similar tie-in theme in this set. So some ideas that I had as far as that goes are Undercity Loyalist as well as Poisoned Portent, one of the other more powerful cards you'll see all day. Now, as far as Loyalist, this is basically a build-your-own Vampire Nighthawk kind of deal right here. But once you actually do get a Planeswalker in play, it's a Vampire Nighthawk that has +1 to its power. So that's not bad, and you get a 3/3 Death Touch for 3 in the meantime, which aren't necessarily the worst stats in the world, but not the best either. We already see that on Isareth and Pestilence Spirit. So it's not like this is an unprecedented rate or anything. And once you do get a Planeswalker in play, which I'm actually thinking is a bigger stipulation than it might sound like, then this creature gets really, really good. But obviously the same can be said of the removal spell, Poison Portent. This is 3 mana, destroy target creature, but if you have a Planeswalker, it's a Wrath for only 3 mana. Now, obviously, you're never going to cast it unless there's 1 and 2 mana Planeswalkers, which there very well may be. Then you're never going to cast this on turn 3. And if you do cast it on turn 3 by some miracle, then it's really not going to be any better than a Deafening Clarion. So I think this is relatively balanced, considering you're probably going to end up casting this on turn 5 or 6 most of the time. But just like the removal spell I showed you, also in Orzhov colors, funnily enough, this could easily allow you to double spell on turn 5 or 6. But by then, again, I think you more than have earned it or deserve being able to double spell on your 5th or 6th turn. So I'm not too worried about the mana cost here. Even if you just have to use it to shoot down a creature, it's actually below rate to use it without a Planeswalker in play. So I think there is some balancing done here, and I wouldn't think that 3 mana is too low for an effect like this. Compare this to all of the, stuff in, Dominaria, that makes you have a legendary creature out before you can cast it. Nobody ever, or legendary creature or Planeswalker, before you could cast them. Nobody ever played with those. And those might actually see more play now that we have so many more Planeswalkers coming into the format, don't get me wrong. But in the current standard, in the last year since Dominaria has come out, no one has played those cards because that is such a difficult stipulation to actually, make sure that you're going to hit. And these are a little bit different. You can cast the spell without having to have a Planeswalker. It's just going to be well below, or I guess above rate. It's kind of hard to work out how those two statements work. It's going to be a bad rate if you don't have a Planeswalker out. However, if you do have a Planeswalker out, it is a very, very good rate. But again, I don't think this is broken or anything. But you know what we're guaranteed to see in this set, and so it makes up the last entry? Planeswalkers. We're going to see Planeswalkers in this set 100%. Yeah, we already know that we're going to see a lot of them. One per pack. Let me just reiterate that. I'm still not. I just can't come around on that. I don't know how I feel about it. But I know that there's going to be Planeswalkers in this set, so we get to take a couple of swings at those. 3 swings, in fact. Now, the first thing I'm going to show you is Tibalt Redeemed. Now, the reason I made a Tibalt is because I wanted to take a swing at a 1-mana Planeswalker. What would a 1-mana, uncommon, but probably actually rare if we're being serious, Planeswalker look like? And this is what we've come up with. A 2-loyalty Planeswalker plus 0, discard a card, then exile the top card of your library. Till end of turn, you may play that card. -1, deal a damage to target creature. -2, so just blow his loyalty up. Deals 2 damage, divided as you choose, among up to 2 target players and or Planeswalkers. Now, this is balanced in a bunch of different ways. Note that it can't tick up. Tibalt can never tick up. And I think that a 1-mana Planeswalker, it's going to be really tough to make a tick-up ability along with at least like 2 other abilities that is not broken. So this Tibalt does not tick up in any way. If you do want to, then you can discard a card every single turn and basically filter the card that you've drawn to exile a card from the top of your library. That's probably the most powerful thing that this card does. You can also just tick it down twice to pop creatures, you know, Llanowar Elves or a Terramander. This would be a very good card, I would imagine, against the mono blue aggro deck right now, and a couple of other decks. Mono white, this will blow up 1-drops all day. At least 2 of them, so that's not a bad card. But its -2 is basically a shock to non-creatures, you know, players and Planeswalkers. So you can also use this as a burn spell, another shock that goes straight to the dome if you're playing standard red burn or something. So there's a lot of different ways you could play this card, and honestly, it's really tough to tweak a 1-mana Planeswalker to be, you know, not broken. And this might actually be the most broken card in the video, and there have already been a few broken cards, but I really would like your input here. What would a 1-mana Planeswalker look like? I want your input on every card on the list, and not even my entries, just stuff you want to see. Don't get me wrong, but I especially want to know how you think a 1-mana Planeswalker would be designed, and if you think this one here is a little bit too broken. I'm on the fence on this. I think this might be the dumbest card I've made in this video. But there's other stuff, like, in case you are a fan of the channel, you might know that Tamiyo is one of my favorite Planeswalkers ever. I don't necessarily like the stained glass art of Tamiyo, but Tamiyo is one of my favorite Planeswalkers, so I was stoked to get to make a version of her. I didn't even come up with anything that comes after the comma, just Tamiyo, because she's like Cher or Madonna, just one name, that's all she needs, Tamiyo. So with that said, Tamiyo costs 4 mana, 2 and 2 blue for a 4-loyalty Planeswalker. You can tick her up by 1 to have target player put the top 4 cards of their library into their graveyard. We need a mill Planeswalker. More on that in a second. But anyway, -2 her to have tap target creature. It doesn't untap as long as you control Tamiyo. Sort of a standard Tamiyo ability. She likes to tap stuff down. And you can -7 to draw a card for each land card in target player's graveyard. Now, there's a few things you can do with Tammy here. You can either mill yourself and hit lands that you'll eventually, you know, draw off of because of her ultimate, or you'll hit Creeping Chills and Narcomoebas and stuff, whatever you want, reanimatable creatures, blah blah. Or, obviously, you can just use this as a 4-mana mill tool against your opponent. Tick it up every single turn until it dies, and if it never does die, you'll eventually hit ultimate and draw a buttload of cards, because probably you've milled 4 or 5 lands into the yard at that point. So there are a couple of ways you can use this Planeswalker, and I'd like to see more takes on a mill Planeswalker. I just don't think that we really have enough, or barely any of that, in Magic history, and I'd like to see it expanded upon, especially considering we have 36 slots for Planeswalkers in this next set. So if one of them has a mill ability, I'll be pretty happy about that. I like this idea here, but anything they do with Tamiyo, I'll probably be happy with, unless she's just god-awful. But we'll have to wait and see, right? Another Planeswalker I feel similarly about, though, I've always loved this Planeswalker, and I hope that they do her justice in this next set. But they have been doing her justice the last couple of times they printed her, is Vraska. Now, This time, since Vraska looks to maybe be helping out the Gatewatch, I'm not actually sure, but it looks like we might actually get Vraska on our side here, if you're on the Gatewatch's side. Personally, I'm a Bolas kind of guy myself, but I've done Vraska Do-Gooder here. We've added white to her casting cost. Now we have an Abzan Planeswalker, which is not something that you see a whole lot of, but I'd really like to see more of. She starts at 4 loyalty, I should tell you that. She costs 2 in Abzan colors, and you can tick her up twice, +2 to create a 1/1 green snake creature token and then put a +1 counter on target creature you control. Or you can -3 her to destroy target creature or enchantment. Or her ultimate is -9, exile all cards from all graveyards, create a 2/2 black snake creature token for each card exiled this way. That is a very powerful ultimate, just so you know, but it's really about the other 2 abilities here. And yeah, you could call that second ability boring if you wanted to, but Vraska likes to just outright destroy stuff, so we're going to let her do that. And as far as the first ability here, I actually think this should be +1, and the ultimate could come down a couple of loyalty, because ticking up to 6 seems like an awful lot, if I'm being honest. But you get a 1/1 snake, which really isn't that much. But where the white comes in here is you get a +1/+1 counter on one of your guys. So that's kind of cool. You can make 2/2 snakes, or you can just make other creatures bigger. Or this could work pretty well with adaptable creatures like Incubation Druid and the like. So there are some different things that you could do with the Do-Gooder in this format. I like a lot about this Vraska, even if it is a little bit dry, if that's the right word. You know, some people might think this Vraska's boring, but I want Vraska to be standard playable and do awesome stuff, and I think that's what I've hit here without getting too crazy. Also would like to see, at least tonally, as far as the story goes, a shift in Vraska's alliances, you know. I don't think Vraska has to be one of the good guys, like, forever or anything, but I would like to see her fight alongside the Gatewatch. I know that kind of makes me a nerd. She's obviously more Bolas-y in her disposition most of the time, but there's just something about Vraska, you know. We all pull for her. We love to hate her. She's one of our favorite villains, so I could understand her being part of the good team every once in a while, is all I'm saying. But I'm no Vorthos. I know there's probably people fainting from me, the implications of what I'm saying, but I don't know. I wish I followed the story a little bit more closely. And if I did, I probably wouldn't have said some stuff that might have sounded stupid. I bet there are Vorthos out there right now. They're like, oh, Dev, you know nothing. I don't know enough about the story. But in any case, those are some cards. I was going to say 10 cards, but I think it's really like 13 cards that I'd like to see implemented in some form or fashion in this upcoming set. But now it's your turn. You can do all kinds of things from here. You know, let me know how dumb or broken my card concepts are. Let me know how underpowered some of them are. I've gotten that on occasion, where everyone else in the comments section is like, dude, this card would break standard for a year and a half and they have to ban it immediately. I also have people saying like, dude, these cards are bad. Like, they're just not playable. They're bad cards. So let me know where you fall on that end of the spectrum. And of course, let me know, first of all, if you're, you know, not only the cards and the text on the cards, how you feel about them, but just the ideas. Because that's what I'm more trying to get across in this video. How you feel about the ideas, you know, presented herein. That's the word I'm looking for. I was going to say henceforth, but that doesn't make any sense. But also, last thing that you could do all kinds of things in the comment section. I don't care. But the last thing I could think of you to do down there is to, you know, give me your own ideas. Let me know what Planeswalkers you want to see and what cards you want to see. This is always a really cool chance to be able to do that. Because, again, we all do this. You know, we all make decks. We all play Magic. And anyone who's ever done those two things will eventually make their own cards. So use this as an opportunity to air your creations. You know, there's really not a whole lot of other forums for doing that on the internet. So do it while you got a chance, kid. But I'm pretty sure that I'm done for this one. But make sure you like the video if you got time to do it. It would really help a brother out if you did that for your boy. But like the video, subscribe if you haven't done it yet for more stupid content and some intelligent content. I promise. It happens occasionally. And make sure you hit the bell for the notifications so that you know when to distinguish between stupid and intelligent content. You're like, that's stupid content. I don't want to watch that. You get your notifications. Also, you can follow me on Twitter at SBMTGDev, or support the Patreon if you really want to do that. Really, seriously, guys, I'm worth $1 a month, and it's all I ask. I try to give you as much value as I can, not only in the form of these videos, but also because if you join for just $1 on the Patreon, I'll let you vote on what videos you want to see next. So if you thought this was a dumb concept for a video, Well, if you were a dollar Patreon, you could have voted against it. You could have voted for something completely different. So get in there, link in the description, vote on what decks you want to see, and I'll let you know what we're doing 24 hours in advance. All that for $1, and I'll say it again with confidence. I'm worth $1 every 30 days, but I'm pretty sure that's all I got. So just make sure you do all the YouTube-ish, and I will catch you cats later. I'm Dev from The Place. Thanks for watching, my wizards. Spread love, and be kind to each other.